Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna switch gears a little and talk about the role of the gut biome and emotions. I'll share a little bit more about how I became interested in this topic. So more than 20 years ago, I was going through a bad health episode. I was having gut issues, skin issues. I had acne all over my face and all over my back, and it was really painful and distressing, to say the least. It went on for a few years, and I couldn't wrap my head around how there could be such a direct relationship between the way I was feeling, the way that I looked, and digestive issues that I was having. I was a broke student. I could barely afford to go to the campus clinic and get antibiotics. Basically buying anything that would help clear my acne, and nothing made it better. In fact, it got worse. That experience, as painful as it was, set my life in a new direction because it pushed me to try to understand what was happening to me. Started making my own meals and eventually made changes that would last a lifetime. I gave up soda, and I started eating mostly food made from scratch, and it wasn't easy at all. I was juggling 2 jobs, and I was trying to finish college, and so I was enrolled almost as a full-time student. But going through this experience was probably the best thing that's happened to me, as hard as it was. So stress hormones can also change the way that bacteria populates the gut. Stress plays a huge role in determining which bacteria thrive in our GI, and this change can literally cause inflammation and digestive issues. And this helps explain why emotional trauma often manifests as physical gastrointestinal symptoms. Strong emotions can also cause intestinal contractions, and your thoughts and feelings can alter your gut, and alternatively, your gut's activity, composition, and overall health can alter your thoughts and feelings. So that butterflies in your stomach feeling, we've all felt it, and it's very real. It's biology. It's basically neural activity happening as a result of external stimuli. A good example is that anticipation that we feel, or anxiety we feel about an upcoming job interview, or a date with someone that you really like. These are things that can trigger neural activity. And we've talked about the vagus nerve, and that is exactly how these systems communicate with each other. Your enteric nervous system does more than just feel emotions. It regulates motility, your gut's ability to keep food moving through the digestive tract, and the same system also triggers the release of saliva in your mouth, initiating digestion. Gastric juice in your stomach helps break down food, and then bile from your gallbladder helps break down fats, and other digestive secretions from the pancreas, which help neutralize acid and maintain membrane integrity. So all these things come together and make up the thing that we call digestion. So how do we know when things are off? How can we tell when our gut biome is not in balance? And that's called dysbiosis, by the way. Dysbiosis means off balance. So research has linked gut dysbiosis to anxiety, fatigue, and depression. And an off-balance gut can manifest as inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, diverticulitis, and the physical and mental are as connected as everything else in our body. So about 95% of your body's serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter, is produced in your gut. And we don't really think about gut systems being off balance. Also important in the topic of mood and biome, your gut microbes produce something called GABA. And GABA stands for gamma-aminobutyric acid, which is a calming neurotransmitter that helps regulate anxiety. You've probably seen it in supplements designed to help you sleep gummies that you see everywhere. Sometimes those have GABA. And also, gamma-aminobutyric acid is not to be confused with our friend butyrate or butyric acid. These are 2 different substances. Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid, and GABA is a neurotransmitter. However, you'll find that nothing in the gut-brain axis happens on its own. There is a study done on mice that has found that GABA intake increased the total short-chain fatty acids in the colon, suggesting that GABA may improve colon health. Remember, short-chain fatty acids, butyrate, helps feed the colonocytes that keep the mucosa healthy. So GABA may improve colon health. When it comes to gut health and emotions, there is an undeniable biological truth. Our brains, guts, and emotions are interconnected parts of a system. So whole foods like fruit, vegetables, and grains have the source materials to feed the bacteria living throughout our gut. These incredible critters produce short-chain fatty acids, neurotransmitters, and hormones that work in tandem to keep us in balance. So it's really astonishing that the bacteria living in our gut, simply by digesting fibers and producing SCFAs, can do so much. They also make vitamins in the gut. But to be clear, we get vitamins through diet, but also through the microbiome. The food we eat is the primary source of vitamins, while the gut microbiome synthesizes some vitamins and influences how they are absorbed. So the microbiome can make B vitamins like biotin, cobalamin, and folic acid, and also vitamin K and vitamin A. And it can influence the absorption of calcium and vitamin D. So that's a lot of things. The species that synthesize folate are also called bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, which you've probably seen in the packaging of yogurt. And we won't go into too much detail regarding the specific strains, so we'll keep things moving and we'll just try to stay on topic. So folate is the master regulator of DNA synthesis, and that's because it donates a carbon molecule to make something called nucleotides. Nucleotides are the basic building blocks of DNA and RNA, which are the genetic material found in cells. And then there's vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin. And without enough vitamin B12 or vitamin B9, your body produces abnormal cells called megaloblasts. So megaloblasts don't divide and reproduce like healthy normal cells, which means there are fewer red blood cells in your bone marrow. These abnormal cells are very large, and their size prevents them from leaving the bone marrow and going into your bloodstream. So this is not good. These weird large cells also die earlier than healthy red blood cells, meaning there are less red blood cells available to carry oxygen, therefore potentially causing anemia. In addition to all that, folate is also really important in pregnancy because it helps prevent neural birth defects. So this is why the US started adding folic acid to some cereal foods back in 98, and because of that, the rate of neural tube defects in babies dropped by 32%. But let's move on to vitamin B7, biotin. This one is in every hair, nails, skin supplement sold. First, what is biotin? Biotin is also called vitamin H or B7. It is an essential cofactor of biotin-dependent enzymes, including carboxylases, decarboxylases, transcarboxylases, which all participate in different metabolic pathways. What I just said basically means that biotin is an absolute beast and a necessary cofactor. It enables all things related to metabolism and basically the breakdown of carbs, fats, and proteins for energy. A biotin deficiency literally starves your cellular energy production. But that's not all. The gut microbiome also makes vitamin B12 with the help of our friends from the Pseudomonas family and some Klebsiella strains. These bacteria employ a complex 30-step biosynthetic pathway requiring cobalt and something called the Corin ring machinery, which is too complex for us to cover in this video, but it's important enough for us to mention it because B12 serves as a cofactor or co-helper for something called methionine synthase and methylmalonyl-CoA mutase, which are enzymes critical for nerve function and DNA methylation. All this means for our purposes is that B12 has to be there to be able to initiate a chain of reactions that are either going to catalyze new reactions, cleave molecules, so those materials can be used in other reactions, or transform those molecules into the materials needed for DNA, RNA synthesis, remember? Genetic material, and also protein methylation and neurotransmitter synthesis. So basically, without these vitamins, the materials that need to be available for all these processes that keep our bodies regenerated and that help with cell renewal and neurotransmitter synthesis and keep serotonin flowing and all of those things, they cannot happen. Okay, the gut also makes a type of vitamin K called menaquinone, which is needed for blood clotting. So another really important thing that happens in the gut. The gut makes this form of vitamin K called menaquinone, which is needed for blood clotting. Otherwise, we would bleed to death from a minor kitchen cut. So both. It's good for bone health and also preventing calcium deposits in your arteries. The key takeaway here is that what keeps a healthy balance of good bacteria is really going to be the environment. So the food that we eat is what's going to help keep the bad guys in check, because it's going to promote the growth of good bacteria. So we want the microbiome to be diverse. That's what's going to make it resilient and balanced. Okay, so we've talked about what the brain-gut axis is, what it does, and how it relates to how we feel. And now you're probably wondering, how can I tell if my microbiome is healthy? I think balance is the key word, and it is not ideal to fixate on any specific diets or focusing on any specific bacterial strain, for example. I would go as far as to say that you need all the macronutrients, you need proteins, fats, and carbohydrates to support your body. And when it comes to your gut health, eating enough complex carbs from whole foods is really at the core of this message. And if you've tried different types of diets, and if you've tried to cut out an entire group of nutrients, soon you realize that you feel like crap. Especially that happens when you cut carbohydrates from your diet. It's just not sustainable. You don't feel good, and dysbiosis can occur. Dysbiosis from poor diet, stress, or disease disrupts the biosynthetic pathways that we've been talking about and potentially create deficiencies that could manifest as fatigue, poor wound healing, and neurological symptoms. So health really is the result of eating whole nutritious foods. We need a diverse colony of not just bacteria, but also other kinds of critters like protozoa, fungi, and even archaea to keep things in check. And I know we've covered so much ground, so I won't go into too much depth on the microbial biome phyla or microbial families, but let's review just their names so we don't forget. There's actinobacteria, Bacteroidetes, Firmicutes, and Proteobacteria. The composition of the microbiome can change depending on where you live, your age, your lifestyle, and it is always changing to adapt to our environment. But generally speaking, signs that your microbiome is healthy, you'll notice that you have regular bowel movements, your stools are well formed. Also, if you need a reference to help you understand poop visual standards, just Google Bristol stool chart. Also, you don't feel regularly bloated and you have a complete emptying sensation after bowel movements. You also don't feel like you have to strain too much when you go to the bathroom. Your energy levels are good, your mood is stable, and you're not getting sick often. Another sign that everything is in balance is that you have clear skin, clear eyes, you have stable weight, and your nails are looking and feeling strong, and your hair is also looking healthy. Also, if I hadn't said it before, just a quick reminder, these are very general signs and not meant to be medical advice, so please consult with your doctor if you have any questions or concerns.